Hello, in this video we're going to talk about function notation and using that to graph lines. Now the actual math that we will do here is probably nothing new or different than what you've done before with lines. It's just written a little different. But function notation can be confusing. Let's look at what it is. So it's a fancy way of writing an equation. So instead of y as the output, we're going to use f of x. And so f is the name of the function. And in math, a lot of times you use F, G, H, but you can use any letter you want. And then this X here is what the input is. So if this was like a T, then this would be T here. What's important to note that F of X, this whole thing is not multiplication. So it's not f times x, and you say f of x. Let's put that down here. We'll say f of x. So it says evaluate the function when x is equal to -1, 0, 2. So what that means is you're going to plug in -1 for x. Okay, so how you write that is f of -1. So you plug in -1 there, and that just tells me or anybody who's looking at your work, oh, they plugged in -1. And then over on the right side, plug in -1 and simplify. So 8 times 1, and we'll do this in one step to save a little room. 8 times negative 8 times -1, excuse me, is +8, and then -2 is 6. And so what this means is when you plug in -1 into f, you get 6. Okay, so try 0 and 2, and we'll squeeze those in here. Pause the video and try this on your own. Now that you tried it, let's check your work. You plug in 0. F of 0 is equal to 0 minus 2 is -2. And then when you plug in, I'm going to run out of room. Let's put it over here. F of 2, you get -8 times 2 minus 2, which is -16 minus 2, which is -18. So F of 2 is -18. So let's look again at what this means. This means you plugged in 2 to f and got -18. You shouldn't think you need to solve for f. Like there's no division here because this is not multiplication. It's pretty confusing, but it's a different way to just communicate using mathematical notation. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing here. We'll go through this pretty quickly because the process is the same. So pause the video and try doing this for these values. So what you want is f of 1/2. You want f of, sorry, I don't know where I got that from. I was looking at the 1/2. You want f of -1. Let's rewrite the whole thing. F of 0, and then f of 2. So it's 3 different problems. So when you plug in -1, you get 1/2 times -1 minus 2. And so that is -1/2 minus 2 is -2.5. So you could say -2.5 as a mixed number. You could do -2.5, or here we will do -5/2 as an improper fraction. When you plug in 0, you get 1/2 times 0 minus 2, which is just -2. And when you plug in 2, you get 1/2 times 2, which is 1, minus 2, which is -1. So these are values. When you plug in -1, you get -5/2. When you plug in 0, you get -2. And when you plug in 2, you get -1. Okay, now on this next part, it says find the value of x so that the function has the given value. So this is the output. So for these, we're going to take out our g of x, or if you want to think about it as taking out your y value, that will work. So this is 2 is equal to -x plus 5. and then just solve that equation. So pause this, try to solve this equation. When you subtract 5 from both sides, you get -3. And then because this x is negative, we want to divide by -1 or just change the sign to everything, and 3 is equal to x. So when you plug in x, you should get, or we plug in 3 for x, you should get 2. And you can check that. 3 times -1 is -3 plus 5 is 2. Okay, try B and C. Pause the video. On B, we plug in -13. When we subtract 11 from both sides, we get -24 is equal to -4x. And then when we divide by -4, we get +6. So x is equal to 6. So that means when you plug in 6, we should get -13. And you can do that, or check that. You get -24 plus 11 is -13. Once again, this is the output as stated by the instructions. And when you put that in for k of x, you then have an equation where you can solve for x. So let's add 21 to both sides, and that gives you 27, or nope, I did that the wrong way, 15 is equal to -2x, and then divide by -2, and x is -15/2, or 7.5 if you prefer that. Okay, so because this function notation is just a different way to write an equation, then we graph equations the same way. We do have this idea of a parent function. So this parent function for a line is f of x is equal to x, or y is equal to x, if you want to think about it this way. And so that's like we call it your parent function because every line is a variation of that. Either we change the slope, make it steeper or less steep, change the y-intercept to move it up or down. And so everything can be compared back to that parent function. For this, we're going to graph the function, and we're going to use like the idea of slope-intercept form. So here my y-intercept is 0, and my slope is -2. So I'm going to go down 2 over 1. Let's go the other direction, left 2, up 1, and we have our line. And compare it to the graph of the parent function. Well, how is this graph different? Well, it's reflected. It's flipped over. The x-axis, or the slope, is negative instead of positive, and it's steeper. The slope is bigger. It's been stretched out vertically, and it's steeper. Let's look at B. The y-intercept is 2. So 0, 2 is the y-intercept, and that's your starting point. So start there, and then from there you have to find your slope. So you go up 1 over 2 for your slope. Let's get another point, up 1 over 2, and then connect those. And let's talk about how this is changed from the parent function. Well, the parent function goes through 0, 0, so we've moved everything up 2. We've also taken this and we've compressed it, or we've made it less steep. So the line is less steep than the parent function because this one has a slope of 1/2, where this one has a slope of 1. If you want to, you can kind of get a visual by graphing y is equal to x on the same plane. So if we did that, the line would look like this. And that might be a little easier to see, oh yeah, I'm moving the line up and it's less steep. Especially here, if you graphed it, you can see, well, here is y is equal to x, or f of x is equal to x. And this line is more steep, and it's also negative. It's also going the other direction, or it's decreasing instead of increasing. Okay, good luck with function notation, and please reach out if you have questions.